Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 37 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League show. I am your host, the self-proclaimed FPL Guru, who actually got told by Fantasy Premier League this season to not give up because my season started so badly. Alex Rex, and joining me today are my usual suspects of Scott Williams and Tom Hughes. Boys, how are we doing today?
Oh, very good.
Doing a Jalen's there, Scott. What was that? Not Jalen's.
No, that was Anelka.
Anelka. Tom, thanks for finally joining us. How are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty good. Not about fancy, but yeah, generally very good.
Have you noticed Tom's joined us on a week where he's done quite well?
Yeah.
I only turn up when I've done all right. I should have won fantasy manager of the week this week, but Liverpool. So thanks, Colin.
That's all right. We'll happily touch base on Manager of the Week in a second. But thanks ever so much for everyone for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, All in Football Pod, All in Football P, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Like the video and subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and also follow us, subscribe to us on all of our podcast channels. But thank you ever so much for everyone for tuning in. We will start off by reviewing the All in Football Podcast League. And to the top of the league goes Nicola Tomlinson, passing Vic Carmichael. Neil Ladd firing himself back up to third place with a fantastic week of 63 points. Barry Stokes staying there solidly in fourth. David Byrne and Mr. Scott Williams in sixth place. Here he is. We've actually got some representation, at least in the top 10. So well done, Scott. And to review our Manager of the Week, it's last season's apprentice.
I'd just like to say, just before we look at this, it's great to see a woman at the top of the Fantasy Football League. I don't think there's enough women involved in fantasy football, so great to see.
I totally agree. We need to invite some women onto the show as well. See if we need to get on.
Scott's mum needs to come on. Really, that's what I think it is. We need Scott's mum and my dad on.
Yeah, end of season special. That's got that written all over it.
Do we get the parents on? Is that what we're gonna do?
Meet the parents.
My dad's not done a team this season, neither's my mum, so I'll ask them to step up. Not very supportive, is it, mum and dad? Come on. They won't be listening anyway. Liam, 66 points. You jammy sod. You started Fofana and Grealish, and both of them didn't play. You actually ended the week on 46 points, but then Perisic and Aronson came off your bench for 20 points to take you to Manager of the Week for 66 points. So for podcast listeners, Dean Henderson in goal, Trent, Perisic, Zinchenko, Salah, Gross, Benrahma, Aronson, Haaland, Jesus, and Mitrovic, Jesus captain. And then there's Sanchez, Fofana, Grealish, and Martinez on the bench. So 66 points, Liam. Shout out as well to Lewis Evans. Well done, Lewis, 66 points. Only just missed out on Manager of the Week. So you took a -4, even though it should really be you, because, at least you picked the correct starting 11. But yeah, 66 points as well. Mendy, Zinchenko, Trent, White, Trippier, Rashford, Sancho, the boys, Salah, Richarlison, Jesus, and Haaland, captain.
It's hard to work out who supports without that badge on the right, isn't it? 3 Man United players, 3 Liverpool players.
Nice, but his team's got a Norwich kit.
Is that the Glazers out scarf?
It is his green and gold. It is his green and gold. How did I miss that? Glazers out. Stop spending money on players, spend some money on the infrastructure of the club. Anyway, let's not do another Man United podcast. No one wants that. So this week, we're going to be reviewing the next 3 game weeks 4, 5, and 6. Because if we have a look at the fixtures moving forward, we can see that there is a midweek after this one. There's game week 4, which kicks off this Saturday, and there's the first set of midweek fixtures, and then there is some other fixtures the weekend after. But all of us are away that weekend, aren't we? Pretending we know how to play cards, so we're going to be missing that one. So when we'll be back is the midweek between game week 6 and 7, which is the first Champions League games of the season. So from now moving forward, if we include an international break as a midweek fixture, all of the teams who are involved in Europe have midweek games up until game week 15. Did they play in the third round of the League Cup? Teams which are in Europe.
Yeah, the European ones do, yeah. The other ones are coming second round, haven't they?
Yeah, the other Prem teams go in second round. Yeah. So all of the European teams have a midweek fixture every week now up until the World Cup. So we didn't really see much rotation for the likes of Liverpool, even though they should have done some rotation, really. Manchester City and other teams like that, we haven't really seen much rotation from those guys so far, but we're probably going to see that to start being stepped up so far over the next few weeks. So let's have a look at who has the best fixtures up until game week 8, which is the next international break. Sorry, go on, Tom.
Before you move on, how weird is that? Because of the way everything falls with the World Cup, you've got the third round of the EFL Cup, one game week, and then the fourth round of the EFL Cup. Just random. Normally you'd have a big space between them. It's just funny how this is all going to work with World Cup. Carry on.
I think it's usually 2 weeks between rounds at the beginning, isn't it?
Is it? I thought it was longer than that. But
not the early rounds. They seem to rattle it. Yeah, they seem to try and get them in because don't forget the final for the League Cup is February, isn't it?
Certainly is.
And I'm not caring about the League Cup. My team's not in it this year.
Well, it's we won't talk about Scunny, will we, Scott? Not this week. Not this year. So to review who has the best fixtures from game weeks 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we had a look at this last week anyway, and we had some insight into teams like Brighton, Brentford, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea. But I wanted to get your take, Tom, on this season's highest performing FPL player, which is Rodrigo, and he is the most transferred player in this week. And after the Brighton away game, which is a tough game on paper, they've only conceded 1 goal this season. They've actually got the best defence in the league this season. It seems like a tough game to bring Rodrigo in for. But what's your take on Leeds, the options within Leeds, and of course, Rodrigo himself?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Scott will verify this. Before the season started, the one player I said I was thinking about and I didn't actually end up bringing in was Rodrigo.
You mentioned it on the podcast. You mentioned it on the first episode of the podcast, to be fair, Tom.
So Scott got him in on draft, I think, but what Marsh did at the end of last season, can't judge anything that happened at the end of the season with Leeds, but Rodrigo went into the leadership group, started to look a bit more positive, and he wasn't having to do as much kind of dropping back as he was under Bielsa. So if there was going to be one player I would have picked out to start the season to do better than last year, was Rodrigo. I didn't think he was going to do quite this well. I mean, I'm buzzing. Obviously, he's been great. Can he carry it on? I don't know. I think, do you know what? He's looked pretty good. He looked really, really good against Chelsea. I know Tuchel seemed to think that was all their errors, but I think Leeds were actually really good in that game, and Rodrigo was a big part of that. He was leading from the front, getting back, making challenges in his own half. He was just everywhere, but he also is showing, that finish for the header was brilliant. Getting into the box for the Harrison assist, that's really positive things. And Bamford continues to have injury issues. Gelhardt continues to pick up little knocks. He's going to play a lot, so there's an option I like. And like I say, the fixture's really good. Brighton away, okay, that's a tough fixture, but also if someone's going to score, it's likely to be him at the moment. So it's not a bad shout. Outside of him, Harrison looks really good. He started to pick up points again. And Aronson, I absolutely love. He's involved in everything we do going forward. And he's a cheaper option than both those two mentioned. So
I would say the big difference, Jim, when we were sat on the podcast last week talking about Rodrigo and this week was it looked like a different beast this week. So as we mentioned previously, I did go to the first game, saw the highlights of the second game, and then watched the Chelsea game on TV. His goals up until the Chelsea game, I think we can all agree with, a couple of tap-ins and a couple of sticky ones. Gave him the armband, didn't they, against Chelsea? He looked like a different animal. He had confidence. He was leading from the front. Like Tom said, his goal was amazing. He could have had another one, but got the assist. Last week, we were saying I would not have brought him in. Now, for me, he's looking like a right option now just because of his performance. Not so much his stats, just because of his performance against Chelsea.
And taking the bias out of it, if I think of last year, if you don't get on these players, because Rodrigo's not going to run hot all season, let's be honest, he's not going to last all season, unlikely. You have to get on the players while they're hot. Last year it was Ben Rama and Antonio. I know Scott will hate me bringing that up, but it was. If you jumped on them early, you have to sometimes just latch on to these players at these teams that are in form. So I don't think you can go wrong going for a Rodrigo or a Harrison while we've got this good run, because it's not going to continue. That's for sure.
What I'll ask about, and if I can find the right screen to get back to, is Harrison's 6 million and Rodrigo's 6.3 million. Would you favour those two over Aronson? Or how do you feel about? I mean, Rodrigo seems relatively obvious to favour if he's playing up front, kind of out of position. But in terms of the Harrison and Aronson, if you were to have to choose between the two of them, there's 0.5 of a difference, both of which are still pretty strong differentials in FPL at 1.4% and 2.8% owned Aronson, Harrison. In that order, who would you go for?
So I think when you're getting into this range of player, it really depends on your budget. I think if they were both the same price, Harrison, because he just Aronson's almost like that pass before the pass. You know, he's spinning in the middle of the park and playing into Harrison, playing into Rodrigo. That's kind of the way that I see that system working. That being said, Aronson should have had the goal against Wolves. I can't believe they didn't give him that. And he's constantly in and around the box. You know, Rodrigo had a shot against Chelsea, which he could have played across to Aronson. He was in the middle of the box and could have finished it. I think it's quite a difficult call. I think if you're just looking players against them and take the prices out of it for now, I'd probably say Harrison.
Okay. It's a bit of an old school winger, isn't he, Harrison? Just really just hugs that touchline and just always looking to get that crossing, which is quite good to see. So I think, you know, Rodrigo and whoever's in the box are always going to be sniffing in those chances. I would also be leaning on Harrison, I think.
Yeah, both on set pieces. You can see here, we're just flicking through the statistics. Their expected points for Harrison is higher. He's obviously got pedigree in FPL. Last season, not so good, but 160 points the season before when he had a good season. So he has got the pedigree, but he's returned in every game this season. So has Rodrigo. And then when you have a look, he's on the corners and free kicks. Aronson just seems to be on corners. And I was just trying to have a look at passing in the final third. Harrison's got the most amount of passes within the final third as well. So, I mean, Aronson's not that far behind him. But
well, just for talking about that, in our Leeds group, somebody put in our chat today that Jack Harrison has the most assists and most chances created in the Premier League so far this year. So that almost makes it an obvious choice in that sense.
I think coming into the last game, first two, nine chances is created in the first two games. I know that would follow Chelsea because I put it on the stats before the game.
He should have had an assist for Bamford, 100%. Bamford should have headed that down. That's another assist in his locker. So he is definitely in and around it at the moment.
Yeah, there's only De Bruyne apparently has created more big chances. That was the one I was looking at as well before. So when you look at Leeds, what I was getting at as well, Tom, sorry, I kind of cut you off there.
Sorry?
What I was getting at before is that, Brighton's a tough game, but a lot of people here will be looking at a potential wildcard game week 8. And if you're looking for budget players to get in your team, then Everton at home, fantastic fixture. One of the best fixtures you can have on the calendar. Brentford away, Brentford are very hit and miss. And they will be all season, you know, by the looks of it. They don't look like the relegation threatened team that we potentially thought they would be, but they're very hit and miss.
They concede goals. Yeah, from Man United. Moving on.
One-off game, of course. You're only as good as your last result. And then Forest at home. So they've got two of the best fixtures possible in the next 3 matches after this Brighton game. So I'm not rushing to get a Leeds player in this week. If it works out that way, then I might do. I'm more conscious of trying to get Martinelli into my team with Fulham at home than Villa at home. But then we're obviously talking about the next 3 game weeks here. I'll absolutely be looking to get someone like a Rodrigo or a Harrison or an Aronson. Very hard to say back to back when you've had 2 hours sleep. Those are the sort of players I'll be looking to get in because they're good differentials. And yes, that's what I'd say moving forward. So nice bit of Leeds chat, Tom, to start off with. You should enjoy that, and I'll show the Premier League table after as well. Third in the league, and I think again what we're going to find moving forward with the fixtures during this whole podcast and YouTube show is that the teams towards the top of the league actually have the best fixtures moving forward as well. So there's so many options with form and fixture at the moment. Arsenal, obviously, the only team with a 100% record. And if we have a look at the fixtures for them moving forward, Fulham and Villa at home the next 2 games. And if we have a look at the statistics as well for a team, now, again, I'm still with you, Scott. I've basically seen every Arsenal game so far this season, and I cannot believe they have the lowest expected goals conceded in the league. I kind of can't really believe that. The eye test definitely doesn't tell me that. But at the same time, got to look at the statistics. Their expected goals conceded is 2.1 over the first 3 games of the season. That's ahead of Spurs at 2.6, Brighton, and then Man City at 2.8. Man City's took a battering against Newcastle. And then Leeds at 3.5. Are you surprised to see that? So I'm not the last thing on Leeds, because we talked about Leeds a lot already, Tom. But must be surprised to see that you've got statistically the 5th best defence in the league.
You were just talking about eye tests. I think when I watch Leeds live, I'm so nervy because we don't play with the width anymore. So it does allow pressure in certain areas. It's very easy for teams to switch play. But I was just thinking, when you're talking about Arsenal, does it feel like that they should have, they should have higher expected goals conceded, because sometimes teams, feel like they're getting quite high up the pitch or in certain areas, and sometimes that's just part of the plan, is to let them press in certain areas and let them attack in certain areas, and actually don't mind them having the ball in those areas as long as you can control it. So, for Leeds, I can't believe ours is 5th bottom. It doesn't feel like that. I think sometimes it can be deceiving watching the games, and it can feel like there's a lot of pressure being applied to a team. But what kind of pressure is it? Where is it? Is it really goal threatening, or does it just feel like heavy pressure? Are they having lots of long shots? Are they being forced into shots from distance or crosses into just kind of areas rather than specific chances being created?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good point. And it leads me into one of the topics of discussion that I wanted to have on the podcast, and it's a big one that everyone is having across the board at this very moment in time. And let me really heavily overuse a phrase here, but is big at the back dead?
Yes. I got 1 point from my 4. I've got Edison, Cancelo, Trent, and Robbo, and I got 1 point, 1 or 2 points, 2 points, 1 from Edison, 1 from Robbo, 0 from Cancelo, and 0 from Trent. That is 27 million of my budget wrapped up on 2 points. And it's not like it's just 1 week where they've done that. That's the 3rd week where I've got basically no points from those lots. So,
well, Liverpool so far this season, obviously, they're the ones where most people have big at the back. And so far this season, they've conceded 2 goals to Fulham, 1 to Palace, and then 2 to Man United. And if we have a look at their statistics as a team, their expected goals conceded is in the bottom half of the table. Their expected goals conceded is 5 so far this season, and they've conceded 5. So the statistics don't lie. The number doesn't lie. They're performing to their expected stats in terms of conceding goals. So if they're conceding basically nearly 2 goals per game, then absolutely, I completely agree. I think that their value isn't there. The big question is with those two is that their next fixture is a very tasty Bournemouth at home. Now, don't get me wrong, Newcastle, that seems like a much tougher game now. They're obviously looking pretty good. Everton's a derby. You never know what's going to happen in the derby. But do you transfer out the big hitting Liverpool defenders before they play Bournemouth at home? Scott, what do you think?
I think you're going to have to expect a response, surely, from that Liverpool team after what happened on Monday night. So, and again, like you say, we're potentially the easiest fixture on paper at the moment.
Yeah, the XG, sorry, I've put that for the YouTube watchers. Sorry, Scott. For podcast listeners, in terms of expected goals scored, Bournemouth are by far the worst in the league. 1.27 expected goals over 3 games. They've only scored 2 goals. And Leicester are next at 1.89. Those are the only 2 teams who have expected to score less than 2 goals so far this season. Sorry, Scott, carry on.
Yeah, and then let's be honest, the reason we have these players in, not so much for the clean sheets, it's more for their attack and returns, which have absolutely been few and far between. But then you look at Bournemouth, goals conceded 7 goals. They are leaky. They are conceding goals. From a Bournemouth perspective, they got that first win, and then the next 3 games have just been a bonus. They get anything out of them, brilliant. So I feel like they're not playing with that pressure that they might have done if they didn't pick up 3 points in that first game against Villa. So I would fully expect a reaction from Liverpool. I wouldn't be taking Trent out. I'll be giving him one more week. I think a lot of people do that. If Liverpool don't perform, I expect a massive selling of Trent next week when, like you say, they've got Newcastle, then Everton, in a derby game. I am going to give Trent one more week, but I am a one Liverpool defensive asset owner. Yeah. If I'm in, I know for Tom, you've got Liverpool, Robbo and Trent. Have you, Alex, as well? Or
no, just got Trent.
If I'm sat there in Tom's position right now, I would probably be potentially looking at getting rid of one of those Liverpool assets.
Okay, fine. Fine.
Tom. I agree with everything Scott's just said. I'll probably keep them both. It's too tempting, that Bournemouth fixture. So, my logic tells me, like Scott says, a bit of a reaction. Bournemouth don't look that great going forward, so at least I should pick up, please, 2 clean sheets from them this week. But 100% it has made me doubt that. Do you know what? I said it last year. How much did I say it last year? Don't double up on defensive assets. I've got 2 Liverpool and 2 City. I wish I could go back to the start of the season and remind myself that I kept saying that last year. So stupid. So I need to get Edison out. I need to get.
You look at it 2 City though, Tom. First 2 game weeks, no goals conceded. You weren't thinking that then.
No, true. That's true, I suppose. But for the value of the cost of Cancelo and Trent and Robbo, you need attacking returns as well to justify them.
100%.
Yeah.
And Trent Alexander-Arnold is the second most transferred out player this week across FPL, which I'm not super surprised about. Saka obviously behind. Still Darwin getting transferred out with Son behind there. Koulibaly's the most transferred out. I didn't realise that 350,000 people owned Koulibaly.
Well, I'd love to know how many people transferred in last week when he scored a goal.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, of course, and what a goal that was! Yeah. What a strike! But yeah, I think in terms of from my perspective of trying to give people a bit of advice on what to do, I'd be sticking with Trent and Robbo this week, and I would be. If you've got 2 free transfers this week, I'd be using them elsewhere. I'd be using them to try and get a player like Martinelli into your team with some fantastic fixtures, probably one of the best fixtures moving forward. I'd be using my transfers this week more in my midfield, and then I'd be focusing. I would be getting rid of one of them probably next week with Newcastle, if not both. If you're going to wildcard in game week 8. You don't really have to worry too much about the value going up. In fact, you have to worry more about the value going down. So you're not going to be worried about selling Trent at 7.5 and then him being 7.8 by the time you get him back. Just not going to happen the way that this is going this season, unless there's something ridiculous.
There is one man on that page right now, which is not a midfielder that I would kind of love to get in. I think he's looked really sharp at the start of the season. One of our old boys, Ivan Toney. I think he's looked really, really good.
He has looked fantastic, and that'll take us very, very nicely onto a bit of Brentford chat. Now, Ivan Toney has got Everton at home next, followed by Palace away, then Leeds at home, Southampton away, and then Arsenal. Obviously, in game week 8, it's going to be a bit tougher. But 4 pretty nice fixtures. Obviously, we just said how good Leeds have looked defensively in terms of statistics. But Everton, not so great. Palace, obviously, you never know what Palace you're going to get. It's Selhurst Park, they're usually quite difficult to play. But and Southampton away, there should be goals in that game. So Toney at 7.2 is a great option, I think, still. De Silva, obviously, still looking really cheap. He's a fantastic enabler to bring in to help you move money around your team, and I wouldn't hesitate too much of bringing him in. And then you've got Rico Henry nearly got an assist last week. I probably wouldn't still be worried about Brentford's defenders. One of the questions we had last week was Raya or Sanchez as a keeper. It's definitely Sanchez, isn't it? Really, I think Brighton's best defence in the league. If you were wildcarding now and you were looking at doing 2 keepers, Sanchez and Ward seem like the 2 keepers you would bring in if you were looking at value. But in terms across the board as well, I had a quick look at Brighton defenders. So if you were looking at transferring out some of your big at the back guys, between Webster, Veltman, and Dunk are the 3 centre halves at 4.5 million. In terms of the only thing that was really a difference maker between Veltman and Webster was their BPS, and Veltman had higher. Other than that, they have exactly the same XG, XGA, and all that sort of stuff. So if you're looking for a 4.5 million defender to go in your team from Brighton and you're wildcarding, it's just Veltman for me. And then Webster probably just behind him, and then Dunk last out of the three currently. To finish off the big at the back tracks, we do have to touch base on Chelsea as well. City defenders. So one of the decisions I've got this week, I'm going to put my team up just because it's just to give a bit of context on here. Where am I? Really far down.
Oh, wow, keeps going.
Don't give up, Al. Don't give up. Game week rank out of 9.5 million, 7 million. Good start. I do a podcast on this and tell people what I think they should do. I have a decision really this week if I want to reshape my team between transferring out one of my big, I have to decide between transferring out one of my big hitters. One of the things I can do is transfer out Cancelo and downgrade him to Walker, and then I can afford to get Zinchenko, Martinelli, and Rodrigo in, and that'll be a minus. I've got 2 free transfers this week. If you were in my shoes, lads, would you look to maybe downgrade Cancelo to someone like Walker, or would you look to be holding on to these guys and trying to figure out another way of getting a player like Martinelli into the team? What are your thoughts?
Tricky one. I think if you really want a player, and like Tom said earlier, players go through patches of form throughout the season. Martinelli's looked really, really good. We've said it on previous pods. Everything's coming down that left-hand side with him and Zinchenko. Yeah, potentially. I mean, James Justin looks disgusting in your team right now. Yeah. He's got 5 points, but I don't really think Bailey looks too good. Neto, I've got him in myself, not doing anything. So, if
the -8 was coming, it would be Bailey, Neto, Justin, and Cancelo or Trent. So it'd probably be out for a Walker, maybe someone, and it was Walker, Zinchenko, Martinelli, and Rodrigo.
Yeah,
Zinchenko, you were warding us off him, so
I'm still not sure if I'd go for him though.
Scott's smiling because he had him in and he was buzzing when he returned after you told him not to put him in.
I think with Zinchenko, and I did some analysis on it as well. His defensively last game, it looks brilliant. He looked really, really composed and assured. I think if you're looking at it as well, it's like, when are you thinking about wildcarding? So
probably game week 8, I'd have thought at the moment.
Yeah, so I mean, sort your team out for 4 game weeks. Yeah, I don't mind it at all. Like Tom says, you've got to get on the players when they're hot at the beginning. Now should be sort of catching up anyway. I don't mind a -8 really. It's especially at this part of the season when you've still got plenty of points to play with, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, my only thing looking at yours is because you've obviously gone for the triple hitters of Salah, KDB, and Haaland. Not particularly in love with that personally, because I think that's tying up a lot of funds which you could upgrade either the defenders or midfielders with. So is it time to make a choice on Salah or De Bruyne?
Well, yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? And it'd be De Bruyne for me. I think he looks fantastic this season. I think he stands a chance of being the top scorer in FPL player. He's already second, I think, in terms of points. I'll obviously double check that. If I was going to get rid of between Salah or De Bruyne, I'd get rid of Salah, but I don't want to get rid of either of them before Bournemouth. If I was going to do the -8 move, it would be downgrading Cancelo to Walker, because I still want a piece of that City defence. And then I'd have a look at it from there. And I'm not too precious about it, but it's I do need to start making a few changes because team's not looking great, is it? Let's be honest. Let's have a look at our podcast team. Let's do that, because I do think this is something that we need to take a look at. Our overall rank is 5.9 million in the world.
Well, what did we say at the start of the season? Just for anyone listening or watching, we did purposely go slightly different with this, just to have a bit of fun with it, and that was a huge mistake because it's gone terribly. There's a reason that you don't go different.
Yeah, there is at the beginning of the season. Look, at the end of the day, if you are playing for the sake of your overall rank at the end of the year, then you do go for the template to start with, roll with the crowd, and then go from there. But if try and have a bit of fun with it and be a little bit different, I think looking at our team moving forward, it's probably time to say bye to Bowen. I'd look at obviously bye to Soufal as well. West Ham looked terrible which is a shame. And then we can make some moves from there because we've got 8.4 wrapped up in Bowen. So we've got some options.
Yeah, I don't think I'm looking at that. It's not drastic, is it? No. Actually, the foundations of that team are pretty good. You know, Bowen, like you say, probably needs to go. Saka is kind of getting to that point where is it more, like you say, is it better having Martinelli, who's a lot cheaper? So yeah, there's some good options there for us.
It's very easy as well to do, you know, if you wanted to just do 2 free transfers or something like that this week, easily done. One of the things I would like to do from a pod perspective is to go a little bit different and potentially go for your boy, Scott, that you've just mentioned there. Get Tony in, try get 3 up front and sort of free up 0.8 somewhere else and maybe do something.
Well, you can do that by taking Saka down to Rodrigo as an example.
Yeah, so for example, there you go. Do something along those lines and get you don't even have to. Who did I take out for Veltman? Soufal. So you don't even have to do that. For a -4, you can do Martinelli, Rodrigo, and Tony, and then we can just reshape our team and bench Bailey. So there are options, and everyone's going to be looking at their own teams and thinking, okay, what can I do differently, and what sort of players should I be bringing in to try and also differentiate myself if I am catching up, and who are the ones I need to have to not keep falling behind? Players you need to have to not keep falling behind. You know, Martinelli is the value pick, along with potentially Rodrigo. Again, I wouldn't be desperate to get him in this week, but I think for the 3 fixtures after, I probably would. You know, one of those Leeds players. And then, do you want a piece of the Arsenal defence against Fulham and Villa? Probably, but I wouldn't be breaking the bank for it. And then the other big at the back stuff, I'd be sticking with Trent and Robbo for this week, but moving on for next. Chelsea are a fun team this season, aren't they? Because I mean, like, what are you going to get each week? And if they're going to look linked with Aubameyang, which is an interesting potential signing for them, that'd be Havertz out the team. I would have thought. But Leicester, Southampton, West Ham, Fulham next 4 very, very good fixtures for Chelsea, because they've got 4 pretty terrible defences that they're coming up against. Anyone from there tempt you? Would you, if you have James, would you stick with him? Would you look to maybe get him in? Any of the Chelsea players looking good for you?
I'd keep James personally. He's got the ability to score goals as well, hasn't he? So it's a bit like he's a cheaper version of your Robbos or your Trent. He's probably got similar potential to them at the moment. So if you hold in Trent and Robbo, you probably hold in James, I would think.
Yeah.
It's the same as Liverpool. You've been beaten 3-0 by one of the relegation favourites at the start of the season. Hammered, by the way. Nowhere near. Tuchel was absolutely chatting cheddar out of that game. You conceded a last-minute equaliser to Harry Kane the week before. When you dominated that game, you expect a reaction next week. So I would be holding James and seeing what's going on. Yeah, quite a fun team. Would if Aubameyang came in, would you see Havertz then drop back into midfield maybe? I don't think his best position is playing that up, that number, that false 9 or whatever position he's playing. Quite a fun team though, like you say, but no one really still jumps out at me. Conor Gallagher didn't look like a footballer at the weekend.
Yeah, weird, isn't it? Because he's such a good player.
It shows you what confidence does for a player, though, doesn't it? When you've got a manager that 100% backs you, like he had at Palace, or you go back to Chelsea where you're maybe not feeling 100% like you've got the backing.
Not the nicest first game for him to make his first start for Chelsea away at Leeds, when Leeds are playing like they are doing with pressing. Didn't get a second on the ball. Didn't even get, players talk about just want to get that first pass, just want to get that first through ball, that first tackle. I think the first time he got the ball, they had 3 Leeds players around him. He lost it. And he, honestly, I'm surprised he didn't get hooked at half-time. He was awful. But like you say, he's a really good player. I do like Conor Gallagher, but he was awful. I'm looking down that list of players, and genuinely no one excites me. The one player that does excite me is Cucurella. I think
he had a big chance against us as well.
Yeah, he looks confident, doesn't he? Everything seems to sort of come through him rather than the other side of the pitch. I think it comes through him more than Reece James.
I don't see, maybe I'm wrong here, but when he was at Brighton, he didn't come across as somebody who was really threatening goals or assists at the same level as a Reece James does. So I get what you're saying. A lot seem to go for him, but actually James just always looks. It's like eye test piece. James always looks so threatening whenever he gets in. He had a shot against us, which Melia had to save. It was very nearly crept in the bottom corner. Cucurella had a much easier chance, which he spooned wide. So,
but you said that about him last. You said about him last year at Brighton. We're talking about a Brighton team that created about a million chances but couldn't score.
I know, but I suppose so. Yeah, if Chelsea got an Aubameyang, would it increase Cucurella's? I think it'd increase Cucurella and James's potential. It always does when you get those attacking players. So,
it's nice when you get backed up by stats, isn't it? Go on, Alex.
No, big chances created. Big chances created. I had a look at these before. Big chances created per 90. Cucurella's top for all Chelsea players. Half a chance per 90. Big chance. So if I was looking at the players, the Chelsea players, and trying to figure out which ones to go for, James isn't a differential at 43.5% owned. I mean, that's ridiculously high in terms of a number. But Cucurella is down here at 11.1, and he's only 5.1 million. So if I was looking for somebody to try and get on to do something a little bit different, Tuchel's comments are all that Chilwell Cucurella's the main man over Chilwell at this very moment in time. In terms of who's going to start. So again, if you're going to take a bit of a punt for the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, I think looking at those fixtures for Chelsea, Leicester at home, Southampton away, West Ham at home, Fulham away, you're looking for a differential. I like someone from Chelsea, and I think if I was going to go for someone, it probably would be one of the fullbacks, because I mean they've still got the best statistics overall between them across the board, and Sterling's obviously a player that gets involved. But yes, from a Chelsea perspective, I think they're the sort of team you would look at. But so conclusion, Tom. I know you were very quick to say no, but is Big at the Back dead?
For now. I think it'll pick back up. I do. I genuinely think that once Liverpool the thing is, Big at the Back is relying on your big teams, basically, isn't it? Let's be fair. You need Chelsea, Liverpool, and City. Their wing backs be doing bits, and at the moment they're not. So it's not currently. I don't think it rules it out completely. But if I was wildcarding this week, I certainly would probably be having one Liverpool, one City, rather than.
I was just really quickly on the defence. I was just thinking, out of my team other than Perisic last game, I think the player that has impressed me most, he's not really returned any points, what he did actually against West Ham, is Nico Williams. And I've just looked at the old, and I know you love this, Tom, the old ICT index. It's top out of 213. Yeah.
Wow. For the defenders, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so his threat is second, his creativity is third, his influence is 11th. So if all I've ever seen, hands are up, all I've ever seen is one new not scoreless game. It's always bombing up there. He takes free kicks, he takes corners. He's got an unbelievable weapon of a shot. He nearly scored last game week. So yeah, obviously no one's getting him out for 4 million. People have got him in, so that's just a nice one just to have in, throw him in. A couple of hard fixtures for us have got coming up, but Bournemouth home, Leeds away, Fulham home. It's a nice little run if you want to slide one in there.
No, I agree. And if you were looking at wildcarding, a lot of people will be looking at wildcarding now who are chasing it. There'll be, I think, a lot of wildcards used over the next couple of weeks. Nico Williams, obviously Ward at 4 million, easy to put him. Williams at 4.1, I think he is now. If you really wanted to just go for a back three, someone like Patterson, you can put in at 4 million as well if you wanted to go cheap. And then De Silva's a great option in terms of cheap midfielders. Pereira's still playing. He's still returning. He's getting a couple of assists at 4.5 as well to build up your cheap midfielders. And there aren't really that many great cheap striker options, but Greenwood comes on and gets the points occasionally. It could be time, and for what we might do at the pod team, and we might end up going 3 up front, and you'd have never ever done that last season. So exciting times. So let's review the fixtures coming up for the next 3 game weeks and talk about the deadlines and captains to finish off for the week. So the deadline for game week 4 is Saturday the 27th of August, this Saturday coming up, and that is at 11 a.m. and it starts off with the early kickoff at Southampton, Man United away at Southampton, to undo all the good work that they did at Liverpool, inevitably.
That's such a 1-0 Southampton, Ward-Prowse. Yeah,
it really is, and it's. But anyway, we'll see. Hopefully, we do well there. In terms of standout fixtures, Liverpool obviously at home to Bournemouth has to be a standout fixture. Mo Salah returned again against Manchester United. It doesn't matter how bad they play; he still seems to score and get some form of return, unless it's game week 2. He just never returns game week 2, which is so weird. But Bournemouth at home, probably the best fixture. Man City at home to Palace. Palace love playing at the Etihad, so we'll see what happens there. But again, a really good fixture. I think your captain's going to come from one of those 2 games, unless you want to go for a Spurs away to Forest if you've got Kane or Son. Lads, your thoughts on captains? Is this a Salah versus De Bruyne Haaland job for you?
I mean, Jesus at home to Fulham.
Jesus at Fulham. Hands up, yeah. Jesus at home to Fulham as well. So yeah, what are your thoughts? I think it seems fairly even. I think it seems fairly even between Salah and Jesus to me. With that, I mean, De Bruyne is still, or Haaland are still an option, but yeah, I also like the fact that Jesus is on Sky, so if I can watch it, then that makes it more exciting.
Influence, it does make it, because it's sometimes you forget to enjoy fantasy football. Watching the games does add to the enjoyment, but Salah at home to Bournemouth, I mean, come on. He scored against Man United and Liverpool look rubbish. So if they can up that performance by 15%, he'll score 3 against Bournemouth. So it's got to be Salah for me. I'm just going to take the risk on that. Jesus looks amazing, but you get the extra clean sheet points, you get the extra goal points from Salah. So it's probably Salah for me.
Weirdly, if Man City had won, say, 2-0 against Newcastle, I'd be saying, yeah, definitely Salah. But City always come back with a 5-0 win when they slip up. And I know Palace is the bogey team. Absolutely is. But, I mean, it's definitely Salah. But I can see, like, Liverpool winning that 3-0, Man City winning that 5-0. And, you're never going anywhere near Spurs away at Forest. Yeah. Absolutely not. That's a tough fixture for anyone.
Forest started well as well.
Yeah,
and
they have. They all have
goals
in
the games,
team, really.
So,
yeah.
I think it'll be a Salah captaincy for me, even though would lie. Depends if I'm about to watch the game on the Saturday, I might put Jesus just because it's exciting. One of the other things about that is that the attacking returns seem to be spread more at Arsenal than they do at Liverpool, probably because they've had more. But they, if someone's going to score for Liverpool, it's probably going to be Salah. It feels like. Whereas
bearing in mind Nunes is out as well.
Yeah,
so
whereas
it's probably going to come from Diaz or Salah.
Arsenal, it feels like, it could be Martinelli, it could be Ødegaard, who decided to just, be the best performing player in the game last week. And it could be Jesus. I think it could be a number of players. You never know, Saka might actually get some returns, bless him. It's not that he's not played well, it's just the way that Arsenal seem to set up and where they seem to attack. So yes, I agree. I think we're pretty confirmed that we're going to go for Salah that game week. Game week 5 deadline Tuesday. Remember, it's your first Tuesday deadline of the season at 6 o'clock for the 7:30 kickoffs of BT Sport televised every single game that week. So standout fixtures. Let's make sure I don't miss any this time.
Where's your cherries, boy? Go on, sorry, Alex. Go on.
I know what Scott. I bet I'll let Scott say what he thinks I'm thinking once you've said this, Alex.
Okay. The standout fixture has to be Man City at home against Nottingham Forest. Then, of course, you've got Liverpool, but they are playing Newcastle, so that's a tougher game. Arsenal, they are playing Villa, which is probably an easier game than Liverpool against Newcastle. There'll be plenty of goals in Leicester, Man United, I can imagine. And Leeds playing Everton at home under the lights at Ellen Road, and Tom Hughes will be there. You're going to be watching the game. You're going to be in the stand. Is it time for you to captain?
We have a lot of Leeds fans. A lot of Leeds fans in our group and in the podcast league. A lot of Leeds fans. A lot of Leeds fans that were absolutely crap on Everton and crap on Lampard. Let's see your cherries, boys. Let's see them. Let's have a captain there. Your boys are doing well. Who are you captaining, Tom? I know you've got the cherries. So what are you going to do? Are you captaining?
Well, at the moment, I've only got 2. I have brought in Rodrigo this week against Alex's advice, but I did it straight away because I wanted to get ahead of the price rise because it's gone up again. Yeah. Do you know what? That game week, I don't like Liverpool at home to Newcastle at all. Don't really love that. Unless Liverpool just suddenly go back to their normal selves against Bournemouth, which they could do, but don't love that one. City, that's pretty tempting, isn't it? At home to Forest. I know Forest have been all right, but it's Man City. Totally different beast. I like Man City and Arsenal that week. If I was going to captain at Leeds, it'd probably be Rodrigo or Harrison, but do I have the guts to do that? I just don't know. I don't know.
For everyone who isn't a Leeds fan, it's basically between sort of Jesus or KDB Haaland, isn't it? Again, whichever one that you've got. I'll be absolutely on a City player that week, and because it's the first midweek of the season. This is where then you start to get a bit nervous about the rotation, and it was made pretty clear by Pep that when there's games every 3 days, Haaland isn't going to start all the time. That was a direct quote from him. Alvarez will get minutes. So does that scream at me Haaland's first rest? Potentially. So I think if I was going to captain anyone right now, it would be KDB, pending the weekend. But you never know. He might play this week and then get rested at the weekend for the Champions League the midweek after. It depends because the Champions League draws this week because the final qualification games are tonight. We're recording on a Wednesday. So I think the Champions League draw might be on Thursday of this week. So then we'll find out how easy the
Friday morning. Usually.
Yeah, maybe Friday. So we'll find out this week, but before the deadline for 4, 5, and 6, who the first fixture in the Champions League is going to be against. So if the City's first fixture is pretty easy, in terms of the group, then it might affect rotation. But let's not try and predict Pep. But so Tom's captaining Rodrigo. I'll be on KDB, and Scott, you'll be on Haaland?
Yeah, I'm petrified now you said about the rotation thing, but yes, Haaland would be all right.
I'm not going to win fantasy football this year anyway, the way I've started, so I might as well have some fun with it. If I'm ever going to captain a Leeds player, that's probably the one, isn't it?
How good will it feel for Rodrigo to score twice against Frank Lampard's Everton whilst you're there for you to captain him? How good will it feel?
How bad will it feel if I've captained him and we lose and I feel responsible for that loss because I am superstitious? So.
A few things there. I may as well have fun with it. Listeners, no, he won't. He'll be getting annoyed at it all year. Number 2, I may as well captain a Leeds player. No, he won't.
He's been called out. Will he do it? His face.
Scott just wants me to do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I want you to do it as well.
We all want you to do it.
I'll make a tactical decision.
To be fair, I should then captain a Man United player against the Arteta project, shouldn't I, in game week 6, really, if that's how we're playing it this season. But game week 6 deadline, Saturday the 3rd of September at 11 a.m. Usual Saturday deadline starting off with the Merseyside derby. So none of us will be captaining Salah in the early kickoff because that's generally 0-0, isn't it? Or a draw, Everton, Liverpool, whatever. Well, it is with Liverpool this season anyway, in particular.
Early kickoff, stay away.
Spurs at home to Fulham. Fantastic fixture for Spurs. Then you've got City away at Villa. I like that fixture. I think that's something that really stands out to me as a City captain game. I'm on Sky away at Villa, who are very leaky. I do like the look of that one. And then you've got the other games like Chelsea at West Ham. But for me, it's probably going to be Spurs against City, and I have no Spurs players at the moment, so it's probably going to be City again for me. Lads, your thoughts on game week? I know it's hard to say because it's game week 6, and we've got 2 of the game weeks before then. But thoughts on this suite of fixtures?
Yeah, probably just leave it on Rodrigo, let it ride.
Yeah, do it for the rest of the season.
Away at the Bees.
Yeah, they're leaky though, aren't they? So
they are leaky.
I think it's an interesting one because, like you say, it's a couple of big game weeks yet.
Do you know what I do like there? Newcastle at home. They've shown that they can score goals. If you've got the budget to get a Sant Maximan or something like that, I know their run initially isn't very good, but after you get past that Wolves Liverpool, it's going to open up a bit for them, isn't it? So
Wolves is fine. I mean, if you take it on the chin, let's just say, for example, let's take this to the World Cup, shall we? Game week 16. Newcastle are 4th on the fixture ticker from game week after that Liverpool game. They have got Man United away and Spurs away in that run, but they don't face. obviously they've already faced Liverpool, but they don't face a City, they don't face an Arsenal. So the best 3 teams in the league. So they've got Palace, West Ham, Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford from game week 6 to 10. Then it's Man United, who haven't got a great defence. Then Everton, Spurs hard, then Villa, Southampton, Chelsea. I think what we'll see a lot of people do is after game week 5, start to really look at Newcastle, because we'll have even more. I mean, they'll be looking at them anyway. I mean, if you want to bring in Trippier this week, I don't think it's a bad move at all. A lot of people do that at 5.1. It's something to consider. If you want to bring in, I wouldn't. I'm unsure about their attackers, because you know what it's like with Wilson and his injuries. So Maximan obviously is a midfielder, looks like a player that can get returns. He always does. He's quite exciting. If I was going to invest in Newcastle, though, it would be in Trippier specifically.
He's on set pieces as well, isn't it? Which helps.
He's so good at free kicks, isn't he? He's so good at free kicks.
When he put that ball down against City, I was like, come on, it's City. He's going to score. He's going to score this. It's almost like you just know he's going to do it in those big moments.
Him and Ward-Prowse, unbelievable at free kicks in the league, aren't they? But yeah, then you'll have a look at these sorts of games and fixtures. So, Bournemouth then become one of the best fixture runs from 6 to 16. Probably wouldn't invest in any of their players. But Palace right up there. I mean, you bought Zaha in last week, Tom, which was pretty inspirational in terms of a pick, considering he got 2 returns.
So he was straight out as well.
Well, yeah, City away, terrible fixture. But then from game week 5 through to game week 16, they've got the second best fixtures behind Bournemouth. So, it's the landscape by the time we do our next podcast will have changed quite a lot. And I encourage everybody to have a look at the fixture run up until when they're potentially going to wildcard. And if you literally have no idea when you're going to wildcard, have a look at the fixture run for the next 4, 5 or 6 weeks and just bring in players for the next 4, 5 or 6 weeks. Because that's how long you want them to be. You don't want to be getting them straight in and out like Tom did with Zaha, but get the points and get rid of him, Tom. And also, if you have looked to wildcard already, then you need to look at the fixture runs up until game week 16 and see how long you want to have these players and players for. But that's for more for the keynos. So we've covered deadlines. We've covered captains. We've covered the teams moving forward. And just to answer Callum Burnett's question that he sent in, you can have as many players in red as you want, as long as they're wearing a Man United shirt or an Arsenal shirt. Now's the time to sell Liverpool players. Oh, wait a minute. Cully won't be listening, will he? He won't have made it to the end. Never mind. Save the needle for that point. Lads, thank you ever so much for joining me this week. Good luck to everyone in the league. Don't forget to like our social media platforms, follow us and all that. I had 2 hours sleep. I can't even remember all the rest of it. So thank you ever so much for tuning in. We'll get this up and good luck for the weekend. Bye for now.